More Tapped Out with Brendan Tobin and Sean Levine on the BetQL Network.
And we roll along this Saturday night right here on the BetQL Network. Tapped Out is the name of the show. That's Brendan Tobin. I'm the sports machine, Sean Levine. And now let's welcome on friend of the show, Dylan Rush from Rush MMA. Before we look forward, Dylan, let's take a look back at UFC 300. Of course, in the main event, Alex Pereira knocked out Jamal Hill. If you could see Alex Pereira fight anybody at any weight class at this point, because that dude's scary and fun to watch, who would be your dream opponent?
Light heavyweight champ Alex Pereira, but if it's not Tom Aspinall, I mean, even if it could be Tom Aspinall, my real dream fight, John Jones. I don't know who wouldn't want to see Alex Pereira, this guy with the touch of death in his fists, taking on the GOAT, John Jones, for the heavyweight championship. Chance to become triple champ, that would be a good one.
All right, then dream with me, and let's say we actually got that fight. It's a pick 'em. Where are you putting your money?
So it's hard to say because nobody seems to want to wrestle Alex Pereira, even though that's, of course, like the glaring hole in his game. I think if there's anyone that would incorporate the wrestling and do it well and get Pereira to the ground and submit him, I think it would be John Jones. So I would have to go with the GOAT. I would back John Jones in that one.
Rush, since we're on the topic of the GOAT, how much interest do you still have in him fighting Stipe? You know, with the whole injury thing and knowing the age of the two guys, like, has that worn off for you as well? Because it is a legacy fight, and we don't get many of those in the sport. Or do you want him to move on to a younger challenge, either it be Aspinall or it be Poatan?
Yeah, I have less interest in that fight than I ever have. I think the only reason that they're clinging on to it so much is that maybe Dana promised Stipe, and maybe like they just want to give Stipe one last fight before he maybe moves on and retires, goes to firefighting full time. But yeah, I would definitely be more interested in seeing John Jones fight the likes of Aspinall or Alex Pereira.
While we're talking about your interest level with all-time favorite fighters, Conor McGregor, of course, is actually going to come back. Fingers crossed. We're going to see the fight coming up late this summer against Michael Chandler. What's your interest level in that fight with McGregor at this point? And do you think we know what Conor McGregor is going to look like inside the octagon? Because last time we saw him, his ankle was on sideways.
Mm-hmm. Whatever we think we know, we probably don't know. I have no idea what to expect in that one. I'm still going back and forth on who I think should be the favorite, who I think is going to win that fight. I definitely have more interest in that fight than the Jones fight, not only because, I mean, even though John Jones is the greatest of all time, of course, Conor's a different animal. There's only one Conor McGregor, but that fight, it's still like, I don't know, it's a bit more relevant. The winner of this fight might get a title shot. I'm pretty sure in the John Jones fight that he's just going to run through Stipe. I'd be shocked if he didn't. But I'm definitely still very much interested in this fight, even though it should have probably happened a few months ago, maybe a year ago at this point. But I'm leaning with the Mac, the return of the Mac. I think Conor McGregor gets the job done. I think he knocks out Chandler in that and within the distance. Yep.
One of his former rivals in Dustin Poirier, the man he last fought, the Guts, is after his great performance down here in Miami, has set himself up for a title shot against Islam. You think Dustin's got the chance to finally get it done and have the last accomplishment really in his career of becoming undisputed champ? What do you like about his chances in this one?
I mean, he definitely has a chance, man. And like, what is this? His third shot, fourth shot, probably his third shot at undisputed gold. He's done everything there is. He's accomplished everything there is to accomplish within the sport. He has such a great legacy, no doubt, undisputed Hall of Famer. But he is missing this one thing, this lightweight championship belt. I think he has a chance, man. But like I said about John Jones, there's nobody I would really put over Islam in the lightweight division right now. If I were to bet who's going to be champion January 1st, 2025, the lightweight division, I would go with Islam Makhachev. So it's less against Dustin and more, I think Islam is a dominant champ, and I think he's going to show that again on June 1st in Newark.
Talk a little fighting with our guy Dylan Rush of Rush MMA here on Tapped Out. Speaking of Islam, at what point do we start to say maybe he's better than Khabib? Because I think it's kind of getting there.
It's definitely getting there. I think he needs to take out a few more contenders. Khabib, of course, he did retire very early, but he did take out Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, Conor McGregor, a few other guys. Islam now, he's still only fought, I think, one top 5 lightweight in the last 9 years, being Charles Oliveira. Of course, he did take out Arman Tsarukyan, but that was Tsarukyan's debut, short notice. I think that fight could go differently this time around, who knows. But I think Islam, he racks up maybe 2-3 more wins at lightweight, and we start talking about him as the greatest lightweight of all time.
Speaking of best divisions of all time, Max Holloway, may get another crack to reclaim his featherweight championship. If you were Max Holloway in his position, he's been saying, I got options. What path would you go? Is it Topuria? Is that the obvious answer, or is there something that interests you more for Blessed?
Well, if I'm any fighter that has any chance of fighting Conor McGregor, I take that chance. Of course, the payday would be unreal. So if I'm Max Holloway, my first choice would be that Conor McGregor fight if he's able to come back and win in June. That being a little bit less likely, I would go for the Topuria fight as opposed to, rather than staying at lightweight, I would go back down to featherweight. I think Ilir Topuria is becoming the most annoying champion there is right now. He's rejecting fights, like trying to call the shots and whatnot. But I think, he hasn't defended the belt once. I'm sure Volk probably will get a rematch. Ortega's right there. Maybe they do Ortega versus Aljamain Sterling, which leads to maybe an opening for Max Holloway to get that title shot. But like you said, he has options. I'm very, very excited to see what they do next with Max Holloway.
Speaking of Dylan, fighters with options, Sean O'Malley now has the belt. He's now defended the belt. Looking back on it, like if you could jump in your hot tub time machine a few years ago, is he better than you thought? Is this kind of what you expected? What's your take on O'Malley right now?
Yeah, it depends where we hop back to because definitely at the beginning, I wouldn't say I was a hater, but I was like, I don't see it. Like he's exciting, he has a flashy style, I like him, but like I didn't think he was a championship caliber fighter. Back in October of what year? 2022, I believe, when he fought Piotr Jan in Abu Dhabi. I definitely didn't give him the credit, the chance that he had in that fight. I thought Piotr Jan was going to make it look easy. Of course, Sean O'Malley went on to win that fight before winning the title over Aljamain Sterling. So he's definitely better than I expected. Again, I was counting him out against Sterling. I did think he was going to beat Cheeto, but in this fight against Marab, maybe I'll be proven wrong again. I would love to be proven wrong, but I'm going to back Marab. If they make that fight, Marab versus Sean O'Malley, I think Marab would win the championship there.
And it feels like for him, like that's gonna answer everything there. But like for Marab, what are the things about this in that matchup particularly that you think are going to give Sean a lot of issues? Because Marab's just looks so damn dominant every time he stepped in there.
Marab has definitely been training for Sean O'Malley for so long. Even when Aljamain was in camp to fight Sean O'Malley, of course, Marab was either emulating Sean O'Malley, which would be hard to do just because of the skill, the size difference, the style difference. But he was training with Aljo for Sean O'Malley. He's had his eyes on the championship, had his eyes probably on O'Malley for a long time now. And of course, we can't talk about Marab without talking about the cardio, without the wrestling. He's nicknamed the Machine for a reason. I have never seen anyone attempt as many takedowns in a 3-round fight, or was it 5 rounds maybe? But I've never seen someone attempt so many takedowns against any fighter than Marab against Piotr Jan. That was insane. And even though Piotr Jan was defending, he did a great job. Marab still won that fight with the unrelenting pressure. I think he does the same thing against O'Malley. I think he's just got to do one thing, which is avoid what Sterling did. Don't rush it. Take your time. And once he gets we haven't really seen Sugar on the ground yet. So once he gets Sugar down, I would expect him to submit him. But who knows? Maybe Sugar has that BJJ defense or offense. Maybe throws up a submission. Who knows?
Well, we know he can knock you out. And now we know that Max Holloway, he's knocking people out like he's Mike Tyson, right? He got the BMF belt against Gaethje. He knocked out the Zombie. Both those were really fun fights. Now that we're a couple of weeks removed from it, because a lot of people, fight fans and otherwise, were sitting in front of their TVs for UFC 300. Joe Rogan immediately called it, that's the greatest knockout of all time. I've rewatched it a bunch. It was a huge card. It was the most popular fight probably on the card, and it finished with 1 second left. It wasn't necessarily as cool looking as a knockout as McGregor versus Aldo or anything like that. Now that we're a couple of weeks removed from it, where do you have that fight? Where do you have that knockout in the pantheon of things?
It's so hard to say, man, because of the things you just said. Like when you're talking about the greatest knockout of all time, the looks go into it, but also the moment, the timing of the fight. Is there a championship on the line? Is it the biggest card of all time? And for a lot of those things, the answer is yes for this knockout. It was the biggest card of all time, probably with 1 second left. Like what's better than that? Looks wise, of course, like it wasn't Joaquin Buckley versus Impa Castagne. It wasn't a catch the kick, spinning head kick knockout like that. Like that to me is the coolest knockout. But best knockout of all time, I think it's right up there with Conor and Aldo. Like Conor, that moment winning the title 13 seconds in. I mean, how could you beat that? But this with the 1 second left, I think the fact is that a lot of people have said like It's different if he was down. Even if he was down, it'd be cool. I put this one above Leon and Kamaru because I think it's cooler that in the last 10 seconds when you're up arguably 3 or 4 rounds, you're still going for the knockout. You still want to finish despite the fact that you could just let the last 10 seconds coast. A lot of people run around the ring, put their hands up and whatnot. But the fact that he was going to win that fight no matter what, and he still said, pointed to the ground, said, let's do this against Justin Gaethje. This isn't against like freaking Ronnie Yaya, Victor Henry. This is Justin Gaethje. We're talking about one of the biggest KOers in the sport. So that I put it at 2. Connor, Aldo, and then that. That's what I do.
You just got the goosies again, man. You got
I got
all
too.
goosed up.
You gave me the
Just thinking
goosies
about
too.
Look, I will give the UFC a bit of a pass on like next week's pay-per-view because the pay-per-views have been awesome. I mean, they've been awesome. So you're naturally going to have a letdown at some point on the card. But like, is there something that does particularly interest you with next week? Is it Pantoja versus Usyk? Because I just feel like Usyk is so burst on his when he opened up the main card last time around. So, what excites you the most about 301 next week?
I think this card is saved if Usyk wins. I think if Usyk wins, for the casual fans, the diehard fans, all the fans, like, not that everyone's rooting for him or anything, but I think if Usyk wins, that shock factor, that like, oh my God, Steven Usyk, he's been in the UFC for 10 months. This is probably his 4th or 5th fight in the UFC, and now he's the champion. I think that shock factor and that like, who is this kid, Astro Boy? I think that would save the card. I think another thing that would save the card is if, regardless of who wins between Usyk and Pantoja, everyone starts walking out, the main event's over, blah, blah, blah. Then the lights go off. You hear Poetan's music come on. He comes out and fights Yuri Prohaska. Obviously, this isn't going to happen, guys, but I think that would save 301. I think that would be pretty awesome.
Like a saved WrestleMania?
Yeah, like WrestleMania type.
Like a Royal Rumble? Yeah.
Poetan just appears in the ring like Undertaker.
You know what?
I suppose if
go ahead, BT.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I suppose if Aldo does, if Aldo has a moment in Brazil, like that's always gonna be amazing. That's definitely gonna be something we can all look forward to because, it's an absolute legend every time he steps into the ring. It means something, but I agree with you. Like that's probably with your take. I don't know if anything else could be as exciting as that.
On paper, yeah, the card kind of stinks, but usually what ends up happening is there's a bunch of awesome knockouts, a couple of cool submissions, the fight of the year. We end up winning a bunch of money and hit some parlays. So we'll still dive deep into it here on Tapped Out. But spinning the wheels forward as far as main events go, we got a couple of minutes left with our guest Dylan Rush here on Tapped Out. 303, Jamal Hill, Khalil Roundtree. 304 looks like it's going to be Cyril Gahn, Tom Aspinall. Give me some winners here.
I'm going Jamal Hill knockout, and I'm going Tom Aspinall. I don't know how he's going to win, but he's going to win. Maybe decision. Maybe knockout, maybe decision. I would probably I'd go knockout. I'd go Aspinall knockout, and I'd go Jamal Hill knockout.
Yeah. Is there any level of you, though, that has concern that Jamal's coming back to? I mean, that was a vicious KO, dude. Like, is there any concern level, or do you feel like he's just a level above Roundtree, so this is a safe return for him?
It's tough because I do think he is a level above Roundtree, but I do agree with you. I think this is a little too soon. I can't speak to it as much. I've never gotten in the cage. I don't know how this stuff goes, but like based on what I've seen, based on the past, like it is a little soon after going down, getting knocked out like that. But even though that knockout was pretty bad, it wasn't like awful. Like if it was like Gaethje coming back, I feel like that knockout was a lot worse, especially after taking the damage Gaethje took earlier in that fight. Like if Gaethje said he was coming back in June, I think the whole world would be up in arms. Like, please do not let him come back in June. So I think it's a little early, but I still think Jamal Hill gets the job done. Not to take anything away from Roundtree, because I think this is a great fight. This is one of the best fights they could have booked. Roundtree is one of the best 205ers in the world, but I do think Jamal Hill, he's got that power. Even if he's losing the fight early on, I see him getting maybe a late second round knockout in this one for sweet dreams.
Before we get out of here, speaking of Justin Gaethje, of course, he got knocked out by Max Holloway in the BMF fight. If I set the over-under for more fights in his career inside the octagon at 3.5,
Under.
what are you playing? Under?
Under.
So we're about done with Gaethje, yeah. I was kind of thinking the same thing. We might only see him a couple of more times. But you'll see Dylan Rush plenty more times right here on Tapped Out. Great stuff as always, brother. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, man. Thank you, guys.
It's going to be sad, man, when we don't see Justin Gaethje anymore, BT, because he's one of those guys. It took him a while to get in the promotion, became a fan favorite, had a bunch of highlights, fought the best dudes, but we knew that it was going to come to an end quick, and the truth is we kind of might be getting there, man.
You're like the Undertaker, dude. You're ready to bury everybody's career. This guy's coming off a head kick against Dustin Poirier. You're already kicking him out of the UFC.
I'm just saying. I mean, he's also coming off a tough knockout. Maybe I'm wrong, but I said the same thing about Cowboy. I was right. I said the same thing about Ferguson. I was right. Get out before it's too late is all I'm saying. Coming up next, we talk more fighting and we make more money right here on the BetQL Network.